Hello from The Ohio State University College of Engineering. Welcome to Engineers Week 2015, which we're kicking off right now. We are very proud to partner with Discover E, with ASABE and Shell to bring you today's program, a wonderful example of collaboration between higher education, a non-profit, and the corporate worlds. Now, just before we went live, I received a text from a good friend of mine who wanted to kick off the kickoff. And he knows a little something about kickoffs because he is the university's athletics mascot. Ladies and gentlemen, Brutus Buckeye. Now, Brutus is a nut, as you might gather, and he's a very quiet nut, man of few words. So, I've got to interpret for him. What he wants you to do is, when he points to this side, he wants to hear from all of you a rather loud E. E, okay? And the other side, he wants to hear from you a very strong weak. Weak! Okay, take it away, Brutus.
E! Weak! E! Weak! E! Weak!
Thank you, Brutus. He's been begging us to launch an athletics engineering program, and maybe we will. So as you can tell, we are really excited to host Engineers Week 2015 kickoff, and that's because we're excited about engineering, and we're passionate about preparing the next generation of engineers, of innovators, of leaders, of problem solvers, teachers, humanitarians. You name it, engineers can do it. Now, engineering has been central to The Ohio State University since its founding in 1870. More than 10,000 engineering and architecture students hone their skills here every day, and over 55,000 alumni impact our world in a myriad of ways. I dare say every week is Engineers Week at The Ohio State University. Here, it's a time to celebrate. It's a time to celebrate how engineers make a difference. It's a time to increase the dialogue about the need for engineers. And it's about bringing engineering to life for our K-12 students, for educators, and for parents. Now, each year, Engineers Week reaches thousands of schools, businesses, and community groups across the United States. And this outreach really makes a difference. Together, we can all make 2015 the year of the engineer. Now, I'd like to introduce you to the moderator of the webcast, Mary Juhas. First and foremost, Mary is an engineer, a material scientist to be exact. As Ohio State's Associate Vice President for Gender Initiatives in STEM, she facilitates recruitment, retention, and advancement of women faculty members in the STEM disciplines. Mary is also the President-elect of WEPAN, the Women in Engineering Proactive Network. Mary, take it away.
Thank you, Pete. Good afternoon, everybody. Can I get an OH?
I.
Panel.
O. H.
Oh, I. All right, that's a proper Buckeye welcome. I'd also like to thank our engineering student hosts today, representing the ASABE student chapter, Engineers Council, and the Technical Engineering Honorary. Thank you so much. Welcome to our audience, and thanks so much for being here. Our 2015 theme is Engineering New Horizons, and today we're going to explore new horizons in engaging our next generation of engineers. So now I'm pleased to introduce our panel. Sitting to my immediate left is Sonia Maassel Jacobsen, professional engineer. She is past president of ASABE and co-chair of Discover E 2015. Welcome, Sonia. Sitting to Sonia's immediate left is Cody Teff. He is the manager responsible for oil and gas delivery in Appalachia for Shell exploration and production. Welcome, Cody. Sitting to Cody's left are OSU engineering students Monica Okon, doctoral candidate in biomedical engineering, and Kaley Corey, BS candidate in food engineering with a minor in interdisciplinary entrepreneurship and OSU ASABE student president. Welcome, Monica and Kaley. Great. So let's get started at the beginning. How do Shell and ASABE, which is about agricultural and biology, see their partnership, Cody?
That's a great question. First, thanks, Mary. Thanks, Ohio State, for hosting this event. I think it's an honor for me to be part of things like this, so I want to say I appreciate that. Shell is a company that produces energy, and what we see is there's a strong link between the production of energy, the use of water resources, and other things that you compete with. When you look ahead to 2050, the forecast is for the planet to have 9 billion people. One example of where 9 billion people is going to put pressure on energy resources, food resources, and water resources is an example of looking at the number of cars on the road on the planet. The expectation is that that could triple. So with the tripling of the number of cars, you've got to fuel those cars. One thing that Shell's doing and working in that space is we're looking at advanced biofuels. And so when I say advanced biofuels, what you're looking at is fuels that don't use food sources or edible plants for their source for the biofuel, or alternatively use waste products from that as the source. And then the last part of that is looking at how you can take those biofuels and instead of having to blend them with more conventional fuel sources, they on their own can be the petrol fuel of the future.
Well, thanks, Cody. Interesting. Sonia, would you like to weigh in on that?
Thank you, Mary, and thank you to OSU. I'll add to Cody's thanks for hosting this kickoff event. It's wonderful to be here. ASABE is pleased to be the lead society for 2015 and to partner with Shell Oil and Discover E for this promoting of engineering. Agricultural and biological engineers are working to do more with less toward the goal of a healthy planet and healthy people. The era of plentiful resources and easy answers is behind us. I'm going to mention 3 areas where biological, agricultural, and food engineers are leading efforts for innovative solutions for the world. The first is bioenergy. This is renewable energy made from materials derived from biological sources. One of the advantages of biomass fuel is that it is often a byproduct or a waste product of other processes, such as farming and forestry. In theory, this means there's no competition between fuel production and food production. Manure, garden waste, and crop residues are all sources of biomass. Currently, though, bioenergy is only 4.5% of the U.S. energy budget. Biomass can be converted to other usable forms of energy, like methane gas or transportation fuels, like ethanol and biodiesel. Agricultural and biological engineers have in-depth knowledge of biological materials and processes, which are critical in developing innovative solutions. And this is where we certainly have a strong link to Shell Oil. A second area of work for BAEs is precision agriculture. We can produce high-quality food products efficiently while caring for the environment by focusing on the exact needs of a precise location. Planet Earth, as Cody mentioned also, will have 9 billion inhabitants by 2050. The goal is to end world hunger in this century. So precision agriculture aims to optimize field-level management of food production. An example is the application of fertilizer for plant growth. We match farming practices to crop needs, seeking to apply exactly the right amount of fertilizer in exactly the right location so the plant has just what it needs and no excess that would leach off into the environment. The third area I will mention is food engineering. Food engineers connect the connection of raw food materials to the processing and packaging needed for food to reach the consumer in a safe and nutritious condition. This needs to be done cost-effectively. Food engineering also includes research and development of new foods and biological products. When I was in India, it was interesting to see that the Indians were concerned about taking a plant that grows naturally there, the bale tree, which is all over the country. It has a very tough rind, but they're concerned about the nutrition of their children under age 5 when they're in the process of having brain development. So they're trying to extract the juice from this fruit that has a very tough skin. It's juice is very high in antioxidants, so they'd really like to be able to give it to their children. So challenges like this, ASABE members are feeding the world, supplying clean water, and meeting energy needs with renewable resources. BAEs have many engineering innovations opening new horizons. It's an exciting field.
Well, thanks, Sonia. I'm going to hold on to you then with a live mic for the next question. Can one person make a difference when it comes to these enormous challenges?
Certainly. Global issues can be addressed locally. By doing education and community outreach, thousands of volunteer efforts influence new engineers and new products. We need everyone to understand the value of engineering in our everyday lives. I invite you to go on www.asabe.org and look for the November-December 2014 issue of Resource Magazine, which focuses on feeding the world in 2050. It may inspire you to become an engineer.
Cody, do you want to comment on that?
Just a couple things to add. So I think the most important part is if you look at the volunteers, they may have skills or training that the parents or the educators may not. Mm-hmm. And with that, they bring something more to the table in facilitating the education process and helping it go further.
So Cody, what do you think is important for volunteers to do and say?
I think the biggest thing is introducing them to the topic of engineering. So I think a lot of us look back at our history, and there's great examples you'll hear in a minute where people were introduced by someone they met. Mm-hmm. And when you look in your own education or your own educational history, you had to be introduced. You were introduced to the base components of it, which are the math and the science, but someone really reaching out and telling you how you can apply that, which is the engineering field.
And having hands-on experience with these kinds of important issues inspires young people to continue in engineering. For example, through Discover E's Future City program, middle school students get to compete. This year we are challenging students to engineer feeding future cities, and so it's a very good fit for the new horizons in front of us.
Thanks, Sonia. Cody?
Yeah, just the last thing I'd say is when you're, as a volunteer, when you're reaching out to those prospective students, part of it is about informing the key to math and science in that space, but it's also about informing that there are other skills that are just as important, whether it's communication skills, interpersonal skills, and lastly, the one I find most important is the problem-solving skills. And and I know at Shell, when we look, the people with that subset of skills are definitely our most successful and definitely the ones that are prepared to help face the future that we're all excited about. That's
very interesting feedback. And Cody, could you talk about the demographics and workforce development at your location?
Yeah, so we were talking just before dinner last night, and one of the things that was brought up is how it looks specifically at the building which I work in, which is just outside of Pittsburgh. And I was adding the numbers up this morning in my head. So when I look at the engineers specifically that work for me, there's 11 engineers that work for me, and 4 of those are females. So that's pretty exciting. I also look at where they come from. There's one individual who's actually working for me who's from Nigeria. So we've got a pretty broad demographic in that. The other part, when we were elaborating on the conversation, was the local leadership team. And I threw out a number last night, but again, as a good engineer, you want to go fact check your data. So I added that up as well, and that's 50% of the local leadership team. So that's people in my level, operations management, activity management, land and lease, finance, those areas. 10 people on that leadership team, half of them are females. So pretty excited about that.
That's really interesting. You know, when I was driving to work this morning, I was reminded by public radio that by President Obama's chief technology secretary or chief technology officer, that right now U.S. universities are graduating fewer females in tech. That means computer engineering than they were 30 years ago. So we really need all hands on deck, and what Shell is doing is invaluable. So, so thanks to you two. Moving on to our students, getting young students to think about their future is important. We all know that, and that's why we're here today. So let's talk to our OSU students and see how they thought about coming into engineering and what types of experiences they've had in solving real engineering problems. So we're going to start with Kaley down at the end. Your parents are engineers. Tell us how that affected your decision.
Well, when I was little, as you said, both my parents were engineers, so I knew about engineering growing up. It had never really come across to me that, oh, I really want to be an engineer until I hit high school. And in high school, I was in the ag education program in FFA, and my brother was also in it, and he's a year younger than me, and he was a part of the ag mechanics team. And their team was looking for a fourth person, so they got to a year where they didn't have enough people, and they were looking for someone strong in math. So my brother came to me and he said, oh, you should really join our team. You know, we need someone strong in math. You're good with math. You should try this out. And I was kind of weary about joining. And finally he convinced me. And so I joined the team, and we made it to the state competition down here at Ohio State. And at the competition, we competed, and then the last section was like an introduction to the Food, Ag, and Biological Engineering department here at Ohio State. So because of that involvement in that program and seeing that presentation here at Ohio State, it really got me interested into food engineering, which is what I'm studying. And at the presentation, I just remember going, oh, okay, ag engineering, I know what that is. Biological, I know what that is. But I had never heard of food engineering before. So just seeing that presentation, and it kind of brought together everything that I liked. It had engineering and science and chemistry and a lot of things that I liked and I had never before thought of. So coming down here to OSU just in a high school competition is what got me here at OSU.
Thanks, Kaley. Very interesting and compelling. And Monica, your parents are both in the STEM disciplines.
Yes.
So I'd like you to talk a little bit about that and tell us about your decision to become an engineer.
So I think the tipping point between deciding on going into science or going into engineering was my mentor. So when I was in high school, I participated in an internship at NASA. And my mentor profoundly had an effect on me. She was patient. She encouraged me. She was really intentional about the project that she put me on. And because she put me on a project where I got to work alongside other engineers, it really got my mind to start thinking about maybe I actually like this field. So when I was applying for college, I really actually hadn't really thought about pursuing engineering until my mom was saying, you know, you sounded like you really enjoyed your NASA internship. Perhaps you want to go into engineering. And now I am a PhD student in biomedical engineering.
So this is great, and this is a good segue. One of the things I tell students, no matter what year they are, is the time to become a mentor is now. There is always somebody who can stand on your shoulders the way that you stood on the shoulders of those who came before you. So if you're 10 years old, that's a good time to start being a mentor. I wonder if our students can talk a little bit about some of the outreach activities that they've been involved with.
So if I were to, because mentoring has been so impactful on me, I definitely make it a point to participate in outreach events. And so if you're a student who's really interested in participating in outreach events, there's a particular event that's going on during Discover E-Week, and it's called Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day. And so what this is it's a program that's led by Women in Engineering, and they invite about 100 girls to participate in various activities that are primarily focusing on engineering. And what's really interesting about that is that they are very intentional about focusing on activities that are mostly underrepresented by women in those fields. And so some of the activities that you'll see in Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day is that students get the chance to make electric speakers or make things with lava lamps, and that talks about chemical engineering. In the sense of electrical speakers, of course, it's electrical engineering. And they also work on other activities such as assembly lines and understanding industrial systems or integrated systems engineering. And they get to work on these various activities and really get their feet wet and get their minds thinking about engineering. Now, for me, I've done a couple of outreach opportunities, and so I really make it a year-long commitment to do outreach. And so I've done work with high school students, and I've done work with middle school students. And I've really made it a point to work with students and really encourage them to go into engineering. So if you're a person who's thinking about going into outreach, I really encourage this one-on-one relationship because it really is impactful to students. Share your story because it makes it real for them. And it really drives home that maybe engineering is a field for me. I also encourage that if you're doing outreach programs, to also talk to parents because sometimes the thing is students get this great experience and then they come home and then that environment might discourage engineering. And they might unintentionally might not realize that. And so it's really important to talk to parents as well as teachers and get them involved in that conversation as well. And so I think that if you're participating in these, there are so many opportunities available on campus. If you're interested in inner city schools, there's student organizations, particularly engineering student organizations that are involved in that. Like I said, if you're interested in just getting your feet wet, you can start off with Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day. And that's typically on the Saturday of Discovery E Week.
Thank you, Monica. Yeah, Girl Day is a feel-good day. It's wonderful. Kaley, what do you want to add?
One of my favorite experiences with outreach, we went into an inner city middle school for girls, and we gave them, the girls, just a bunch of random pieces. So we had cardboard pieces and straws and paper clips, and we just gave them some random supplies, and we told them to build a moon lander for for a marshmallow astronaut. So the whole goal was that they built this lander that they could drop from like a certain height that would protect the marshmallow that was their astronaut. And it was such a great experience just to see how when you give the girls all these supplies that they don't really hadn't been told about engineering before. You give them all these supplies and they just go ahead and go for it and start building different prototypes for it. And it was just really neat, all the questions that they asked the whole time. Oh, can we do it this way? Can we do it this way? And we told them, well, you're the engineers for this project, so go for it and do it how you want. So it was really a cool experience for me too, as well as the girls, just to see them getting really excited about engineering that they didn't even realize was going on.
That's awesome. And developing your mentoring skills.
Exactly.
For the future. So our audience has now gotten tips on what we do here on campus for Girl Day and for Engineers Week outreach activities, but I'd like to hear from our professionals about what other ways they can get involved.
I really would encourage everyone to visit www.discovere.org to learn about all of the programs that are offered, and there are so many resources on that site. It'll take you some time to find them all, because there are so many good ones. You can download great volunteer kits for both Engineers Week and for Introduce a Girl to Engineering. You can also get printed copies also. And you can find an online career presentation package called Inspire Innovation, Discover Engineering. Both excellent resources.
So there's two things I would add. So one, if there's a teacher somewhere in your career, whether it's middle school or high school, that really inspired you into engineering, there's an opportunity to nominate them for the Discover E Educator Recognition Award. So that supports that part of it. The other side of it is from a college student, and I look around the room or think to the people online, there's unrestricted grants you can get from the New Faces of Engineering College Edition, which is also through the Discover E program.
And one more, both professional and student engineering societies can get new local collaborative diversity grants. There's really so much there. Please go and look at www.discovere.org.
Well, thank you. So our time is about run out now. I'd like to thank our panel. I think we've received some great tips this afternoon. We hope that you will help to push the horizon in engineering by volunteering in your community as part of Engineers Week or any time of the year. As Dean Williams said, every week should be Engineers Week. So help us reach the next generation to ensure people everywhere, to help them understand how engineers make the world a better place. So in closing, on behalf of The Ohio State University, Shell, the American Society of Agricultural and Biological Engineers, and Discover E, thank you for joining us.